Yoon went down first. He used ropes and climbing gear to lower himself through the hole they had blasted in the rock. His helmet light cut through the darkness below. "I can see it," he said into his radio. "The ship is right here. 20 meters. Down, his feet touched something smooth and hard. It was not rock. It was the top of the buried ship. The surface felt warm through his gloves, even though it had been buried in cold space for millions of years. "What does it look like?" Hana asked from above. Yoon moved his light around. The ship's surface was dark gray metal, but it seemed to move and shift in his light. When he looked straight at it, it looked solid. When he looked from the corner of his eye, it looked see-through. "It looks like metal, but wrong metal," he said. "I think there is a way inside over here." Near where he stood, there was a crack in the ship's surface. It was just big enough for a person to fit through. The edges of the crack were smooth, like someone had cut it with a perfect tool. "I'm going inside," Yoon said. "Wait for us," Tae called down. One by one, his team came down the ropes. When all four stood on the ship's surface, they could see how strange it really was. Their lights showed a surface that seemed to bend and curve in ways that hurt their eyes to follow. "Look at this," Nari said. She pointed her light at what looked like writing on the ship's surface. The symbols glowed softly when the light hit them. "These are not human letters." The symbols moved. As they watched, the alien writing changed shape and position. It was like watching words rewrite themselves. "Writing does not move," Tai said. "This writing does," Hana said. She took pictures, but when she looked at the pictures on her camera, they showed different symbols than what she was seeing with her eyes. Yoon led them to the crack in the ship's hull. "Stay close together. We do not know what is inside." He squeezed through the opening. His team followed. Inside, their lights showed a hallway that stretched away into darkness. The walls were the same strange metal as the outside, but here they could see patterns and lines running through them like veins. "Which way?" Hana asked. The hallway went in two directions. Yoon picked the left path and started walking. His team stayed close behind him. After walking for 5 minutes, something impossible happened. They found themselves back where they started. "Walked in a straight line," Tae said. "How are we back here?" "Maybe we took a wrong turn," Nari said, but there had been no turns. The hallway was straight. Yoon was sure of it. This time, he had Tae mark the walls with chalk as they walked. They went right instead of left. Again, after 5 minutes of walking straight, they were back at the entrance. "Look at the chalk marks," Tae said. The chalk marks were still on the walls where he had put them, but they were also ahead of them, on the path they had not walked yet. "That is not possible," Hana said. They tried again. This time Yoon had them tie a rope to the entrance and unroll it as they walked. That way they could follow it back. They walked straight ahead for 10 minutes. The rope unrolled behind them. Then Yoon saw something that made him stop. Ahead of them, coming toward them, was the other end of their own rope. "We are walking in a circle," he said, "but the hallway is straight." "Circles are not straight," Tae said. "This one is," Nari said. She was looking at her compass. "We have been walking north the whole time, but we are back where we started." They were inside something that did not follow the rules of how space worked. Hana found a door in the hallway wall. It was just a dark opening with no actual door. When she shined her light inside, she saw a room that looked bigger than the entire ship. "The room is too big," she said. "The ship is not wide enough for this room to fit inside it." But when they went inside, the room was there. It was huge. Their lights could not reach the far walls or the ceiling. The ship was only 50 meters wide, but this room was at least 100 meters across. "Space does not work like this," Tae said. In the center of the room was something that looked like a control panel. It had no buttons or switches, just smooth surfaces covered in the same moving symbols they had seen outside. Nari walked up to it. When she got close, the symbols began to glow brighter. When she touched the surface, new symbols appeared under her fingers. "It knows I am here," she said. The control panel made no sound, but somehow they could all feel it was trying to communicate. The symbols changed faster, like they were asking questions. Yoon touched the panel too. The symbols changed, again showing new patterns. They seemed to be responding to his thoughts, not his touch. I think it reads minds, he said. That is impossible, Hana said. But when she thought about her home on Earth, new symbols appeared on the panel, symbols that somehow reminded her of blue skies and green grass. Tae tried to think about numbers. The symbols changed to show patterns that looked like mathematical equations, but with symbols that no human had ever seen. It is trying to teach us, Nari said. Look. The panel was showing simple pictures now. A circle for the sun, a smaller circle for Earth, an even smaller circle for the moon. Then it showed their ship landing on the moon. It knew they were from Earth. But then it showed something else. It showed Earth, but not alone. It showed Earth existing in many different places at the same time. Some of the Earths were blue and green like theirs. Others were red or purple or colors they had no names. For many Earths? Yoon asked. The panel showed more pictures. It showed beings like humans, but different. Some had extra arms, some had wings, some looked like living light. All of them lived on different versions of Earth. I think it is showing us other dimensions, Nari said. Other realities where Earth exists, but is different. The panel showed one more thing. It showed the ship they were standing in, traveling between these different Earths, going from one reality to another. This ship does not just fly through space, Hana said. It flies between different realities. That explained why the ship looked different when they scanned it. It existed in multiple realities at the same time. The hallways that curved back on themselves. The rooms that were bigger than the ship. It all made sense if the ship was not completely in their reality. Where are the people who built this? Tai asked. He thought the question, and the panel answered. It showed beings that looked like living thought. They had no solid bodies. They existed as ideas that could take shape when they needed to. They are made of thoughts, Nari said. How can thoughts build a ship? Hana asked. The panel showed them. In the reality where these beings lived, thoughts were as solid as metal. Ideas could be tools. Dreams could be engines. The ship was built from the concept of travel itself. Yoon stepped back from the panel. His head hurt from trying to understand impossible things. We need to go back and tell Earth about this, he said. But when they turned to leave the room, they found that the door they had come through was gone. The wall was solid metal with no opening. Where did the door go? Tae asked. Nari touched the wall where the door had been. New symbols appeared. I think it moved. They walked around the edge of the huge room. They found 3 doors, but none of them were where the first door had been. Which door do we take? Hana asked. Yoon picked the door that felt right, though he could not explain why. It led to a hallway that was different from the first one. This hallway went up and down at the same time, like stairs that were also a flat floor. Walking on it made them dizzy, but somehow they did not fall. The ship is alive, Yoon said. It is changing itself around us. Why? Tae asked. Maybe it wants to show us something, Nari said. They followed the impossible hallway until it led them to another room. This room was filled with floating objects that glowed like stars. When they walked among them, the objects sang in harmonies that made them think of home. Beautiful, Hana whispered. The ship was not just showing them impossible things. It was showing them wonderful things. Things that could only exist in a reality where the rules were different. But they were still lost inside something they did not understand, far from home, surrounded by technology that should not work. And somewhere in the ship, they could feel a presence watching them, waiting to see if they were ready for what came next. Commander Yoon wiped the sweat from his face inside his helmet. The lunar surface was cold, but drilling made him hot. He stood at the edge of Shackleton Crater, watching his team work. They had been on the moon for 3 weeks now. Their job was simple: dig deep and find water ice that future moon bases could use. The Korean Space Agency had sent 4 people for this mission. Yoon was in charge. Hana knew everything about rocks and soil. Tai could fix any machine that broke. Nari studied old things from space. They were a good team. How deep are we now? Yoon asked into his radio. 200 meters, Tay said. He stood next to the big drilling machine. Steam came up from the hole they were making. The thermal lance is working well. We should hit the ice layer soon. Hana looked at her computer screen. It showed what the drill found as it went down. The rock layers look normal here, just like Earth rocks, but older, much older. Nari stood nearby taking pictures of everything. She always took pictures. Her job was to look for signs of life or strange objects in space. So far, the moon had been boring. Just rocks and dust like everyone expected. The drilling machine made a loud noise. Then it stopped. What happened? Yoon asked. Tay checked his controls. Something is wrong. The drill hit something hard, very hard, harder than rock. Maybe it is just a big rock, Hana said. She walked over to look at the readings. Wait, this is strange. The rock here should be soft. The maps show soft rock all the way down to the ice. Yoon felt worried. Nothing was supposed to be hard at this depth. Can you get the drill working again? I can try, Tay said. He pressed buttons and turned dials. The machine started up again. But after a few seconds it stopped. No good. We hit something like metal. The drill cannot cut through it. Metal? On the moon? That made no sense. The moon had some metal in its rocks, but not like this. Not in big pieces. Bring the drill back up, Yoon said. We need to see what we hit. Tay worked the controls. The long drill bit came up slowly from the hole. When it reached the top, they could see the tip. It was not sharp anymore. It looked melted and bent. What could do this to our drill? Tay asked. He touched the metal tip. It was still warm. Hana took samples from the drill bit. She put them in her testing machine. These metal pieces are not from our drill. They came from whatever we hit down there. She ran more tests. Her face looked confused as she read the results. This is impossible. This metal does not match anything we know. It is not like Earth metal or moon metal. It is something else. Nari took pictures of the damaged drill bit. If there is metal down there, it did not form naturally. Someone or something put it there. Are you saying aliens put metal under the moon? Yoon asked. I am saying we found metal that should not exist, Nari said. We need to find out what it is. Yoon thought about what to do. They could report this to Earth and wait for orders. That would take hours because of the long radio delay. Or they could investigate now. We use the ground radar, he said. Let us see how big this thing is. Tay got the radar equipment ready. It could see through rock and show the shape of things buried underground. He pointed it down into their drill hole. The radar screen showed something that made them all stop talking. That cannot be right, Tay said. He adjusted the machine and tried again. The screen showed the same thing. Deep under the moon's surface was something huge. It was not round like a rock. It was long and smooth, like a ship. A very big ship. How big do you think it is? Yoon asked. Tay looked at his measurements. Maybe 500 meters long. But the shape is strange. It does not look like any ship I know. Hana stared at the screen. How long has it been down there? The rock layers above it are very old, she said after checking her data. Millions of years old, maybe more. An alien ship, buried under the moon for millions of years. This changed everything. We need to tell Earth, Yoon said. Wait, Nari said. Look at this. She had been taking more radar readings from different angles. The new pictures showed something even stranger. The ship seemed to change shape depending on where they pointed the radar. That makes no sense, Tay said. Objects do not change shape like that. Unless they are not normal objects, Nari said. They spent 2 hours taking radar pictures from every direction. Each picture showed the ship differently. Sometimes it looked long and thin. Sometimes it looked wide and flat. Sometimes the radar could not see it at all. Our equipment must be broken, Tay said. All of it? Hana asked. At the same time? Yoon made a decision. We go down there. Down where? Tai asked. Into the hole. We make it bigger, and we go down to see this ship. That could be dangerous, Hana said. Everything about this is dangerous, Yoon said. But we are explorers. This is what we came here to do. Explore. They spent the rest of the day making the hole bigger. Instead of drilling, they used small explosives to blast the rock away. It was slow work, but safer than trying to drill through the strange metal. As they dug deeper, they found more pieces of the buried object. Each piece was different. Some looked like normal metal. Others seemed to bend light around them. Some pieces felt warm, even though they were buried in cold rock. This metal is not just strange, Hannah said. It is impossible. It breaks the rules of how metal should work. When the sun set on their work area, they had made the hole big enough for a person to fit through. Tomorrow, they would go down and see the ship with their own eyes. That night, in their small base camp, they could not sleep. They were too excited and too scared. What if it is a weapon? Tae asked. What if it is not dead? Hannah asked. What if we are not ready for what we will find? Nari asked. Yoon looked out through the window at Earth. It looked small and blue in the black sky. What if this changes everything we know about being alone in space? They knew that tomorrow, they would either make the greatest discovery in human history, or they would find something that humans were not meant to find. The alien ship waited, below them in the dark, keeping its secrets buried in moon rock and time. Dr. Bok stared at the report on his desk for the third time. As head of the Korean Space Agency's Science Division, he had seen many strange reports from space missions. But nothing like this. Impossible, he said aloud in his empty office. The report from Yoon's team described a buried alien ship that changed shape depending on how you looked at it. Hallways that led back to themselves. Rooms bigger than the ship they were inside. Living beings made of thought. Dr. Bok picked up his phone and called Professor Woo at Seoul National University. Professor Woo was the smartest physicist in Korea, maybe in the world. I need you to look at something, Dr. Bok said. Can you come to my office? 2 hours later, Professor Woo sat across from Dr. Bok's desk, reading the same report. His face grew more and more angry as he read. This is garbage, Professor Woo said finally. Space madness. Hallucinations from too much radiation exposure. You need to bring that team back to Earth immediately for medical treatment. But their equipment readings support their story, Dr. Bok said. The radar scans, the metal samples, the photographs. Equipment can malfunction, especially in space. Cosmic rays can damage electronics and make them show false readings. Dr. Bok wanted to believe that. It would make everything simple. But deep in his mind, he wondered if there might be more to this story. What if they are telling the truth? He asked. Professor Woo stood up, angry. Then physics is a lie. Then everything we know about how the universe works is wrong. Rooms cannot be bigger than the buildings they are inside. Objects cannot change shape by themselves. Beings cannot be made of thoughts. But what if they can? Then I have wasted my whole life studying science that means nothing. That afternoon, Dr. Bok called a meeting with the other department heads. He showed them the report from the moon team. The reactions were the same as Professor Woo's. Disbelief, anger, demands to classify the mission as a failure and bring the crew home. We cannot tell the public about this, said Dr. Kim from the Public Relations Department. They will think we are crazy. They will stop funding the space program. We cannot tell other countries either, said Dr. Park from International Relations. They will think we are lying to them about some new technology we found. Only Dr. Lee from the Psychology Department had a different opinion. What if the crew is telling the truth? She asked. What if there really are things in the universe that our current science cannot explain? Impossible, Professor Woo said. Science works by understanding natural laws. Natural laws do not change. But our understanding of natural laws does change, Dr. Lee said. 100 years ago, we thought atoms were the smallest things in existence. 50 years ago, we thought space and time were separate things. Our science grows by discovering that things we thought were impossible are actually possible. The argument went on for hours. Most of the scientists wanted to declare the mission a failure and cover up the report. Dr. Bach felt torn between what he wanted to believe and what seemed reasonable. Meanwhile, on the moon, Yoon's team was learning things that would change everything. The Mei. Kieran had begun teaching them how to think in new ways, not just about science but about reality itself. Your people think that there is only one way for things to be, the Kieran teacher explained. It appeared to them as a being made of shifting, geometric patterns. But everything can be many ways at once. Show us, Yoon said. The Kieran created a simple demonstration. It made a cube appear in the air. The cube was red. What color is this? The Kieran asked. Red, Hana said. Look again. Hana looked at the cube from a different angle. Now it was blue. It changed, she said. No, it was always both colors. You could only see one at a time because your mind insists that things can only be one way. Tay walked around the cube. From every angle it was a different color. Red, blue, green, yellow, purple, colors he had no names for. It is all colors, he said. Yes, and it is also no colors, and it is also not a cube. Nari looked at the shape, again. When she stopped insisting it had to be a cube, she could see that it was also a sphere, a pyramid, a flower, and things that had no human names. Everything is like this, the Kieran explained. Your moon is also a star and a planet and a living creature and a mathematical equation. Your Earth is also every other world that could possibly exist. You are also every person you could have been. But how is that possible? Yoon asked. It is possible because possibility itself is not limited by what you think is reasonable. The Kieran showed them more demonstrations. Water that flowed upward because down was also up. Fire that froze things because cold was also hot. Sounds that could be seen and colors that could be heard. This is beautiful, Hana said. But how do we explain it to other humans? The same way you explain love, or music, or dreams, the Kieran said. Not with logic, but with experience. Not by proving it is real, but by showing how it feels. That gave Yoon an idea. Humans already understand impossible things, he said. We just do not admit it. He thought about all the things humans accepted that did not make logical sense. People fell in love for no reason. Artists created beauty that served no practical purpose. Musicians made sounds that somehow became emotions. Writers told stories about things that never happened and made people cry real tears. Human minds are already flexible, Nari realized. We just pretend they are not. When humans dream, they accept impossible things, Tay added. Flying without wings, talking to dead people, being in two places at once. When humans create art, they make something from nothing, Hana said. They take blank canvas and empty air and turn them into things that move other people's hearts. The Kieran's form brightened with approval. Yes, you understand. Your species already has the ability to think beyond logic. You just do not use it when you study the universe. So how do we teach other humans to use this ability? Yoon asked. The same way humans have always learned impossible things. Through story, through art, through play. The Kieran showed them images of human children playing. Children naturally accepted impossible things. They had conversations with imaginary friends. They flew through the air in their games. They became animals and monsters and heroes without thinking it was strange. Children understand multiple realities, the Kieran said. Adults forget this understanding because they are taught that only one reality is allowed. We need to help adults remember how to be children, Nari said. Not children, the Kieran corrected. Adults who remember the wisdom of children. Adults who can be logical and magical at the same time. Over the following days, Yoon's team learned to use both kinds of thinking. They learned to measure things scientifically and also to experience them artistically. They learned to solve problems with logic and also with intuition. Most importantly, they learned to create technology that worked by accepting paradox instead of fighting it. Tai designed an engine that worked by not working. It stayed still and made the universe move around it instead. Hana created a scanner that found things by forgetting to look for them. Nari built a communication device that sent messages by not sending them. These designs will seem impossible to Earth scientists, Yoon said. Then we teach them gradually, Hana said. We start with small, impossible things and work up to bigger ones. We show them that their own minds already accept impossible things, Tae said. Then we show them that the universe does too. Back on Earth, Dr. Bach made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of declaring the mission a failure, he asked for more time to study the reports. Give them 1 more week, he told the committee. If they can provide more evidence, we will consider their claims. Professor Wu was furious. You are encouraging delusion. I am encouraging investigation, Dr. Bach said. That is what scientists are supposed to do. That night, Dr. Bach went home and did something he had not done since he was a child. He drew pictures. He wrote stories. He played music. He let his mind wander into impossible places. And for the first time in years, he felt truly creative. Maybe, he thought, there was more to the universe than equations and measurements. Maybe there was room for wonder too. On the moon, Yoon's team prepared to return home. But they were not the same people who had left Earth. They carried with them knowledge that would change everything. They also carried something else, a small device the Kiran had given them, a device that would let other humans experience what they had experienced. Are you ready? Yoon asked his team. Ready to change the world, Hana said. Ready to show humans that they are already more than they think they are, Tae said. Ready to help our species take the next step in evolution, Nari said. They climbed into their ship and began the journey home. Behind them, the alien ship settled back into the moon's surface to wait. The Kiran would sleep again until humanity was ready for the next lesson. But they would not sleep long. Change was coming to Earth, carried by 4 humans who had learned to think with the universe instead of against it. When Yoon's team returned to Earth, they brought more than just reports and photographs. They brought a small crystal device that the Kiran had given them. It looked simple, like a piece of colored glass, but it contained something that would change humanity forever. What does it do? Dr. Bach asked. He held the crystal carefully in the Korean Space Agency's secure laboratory. It helps people experience multiple realities, Yoon explained. Just for a few minutes, just enough to understand that impossible things are possible. Dr. Bach set the crystal on the table. Show me. Nari activated the device by thinking about openness and wonder. The crystal began to glow softly. The light spread through the room like gentle water. Suddenly, Dr. Bach could see the laboratory as it was, but also as it could be. He saw the same room but with different equipment, the same people but wearing different clothes, the same moment but happening in many different ways all at once. This is incredible, he whispered. For 5 minutes, Dr. Bach experienced reality, as the Kiran experienced it. Multiple possibilities existing together. Truth that could be many different things without being less true. When the crystal stopped glowing, Dr. Bach sat quietly for a long time. I understand now, he said finally. This is not about changing physics. This is about expanding it. Word of the crystal spread through the scientific community. At first, most scientists refused to try it. They called it dangerous or fake or a trick. But Professor Wu surprised everyone. I will try it, he announced at a meeting of the International Physics Committee. If it proves these claims are false, we can end this nonsense once and for all. The crystal was brought to his laboratory at Seoul National University. Professor Wu sat in his chair, surrounded by his equations and his certainties about how the universe worked. Hana activated the crystal. For 5 minutes, Professor Wu saw his equations come alive. He saw mathematics dancing in the air like living creatures. He saw numbers that sang and formulas that grew like flowers. He saw that his rigid understanding of physics was just one way to describe something far more beautiful and complex. When it ended, tears ran down his face. I have been studying shadows on a wall, he said, thinking they were the real world. Within months, the crystal had been experienced by scientists in dozens of countries. Not all of them accepted what they saw. Some dismissed it as hallucination or mass hypnosis. but enough believed to begin a revolution in human thinking. Tay worked with engineers to build new kinds of machines based on Kiran principles. Engines that moved by staying still, computers that calculated by dreaming, communication systems that sent messages through hope and imagination. The machines do not make sense, other engineers complained. They do not need to make sense. Tay replied. They need to work, and they work beautifully. Hannah collaborated with geologists to study the Earth in new ways. They discovered that the planet was not just rock and metal, but also living thought and crystallized time. They found that mountains were also songs, and rivers were also stories. This changes everything we know about our world, her colleagues said. No, Hannah replied. It reveals everything our world always was. We just could not see it before. Nari established the first department of multidimensional studies at Seoul National University. Students came from around the world to learn how to study things that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. How do we write reports about impossible things? Her students asked. The same way poets write about love, Nari answered, with truth that goes beyond facts. But the greatest changes happened when ordinary people began to experience the crystal. Artists who used it created works of stunning beauty that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Musicians composed songs that could be heard with the eyes as well as the ears. Writers told stories that readers could step inside and live. Children who experienced the crystal were not surprised at all. They recognized the multiple realities immediately, as if they had always known such things were possible. Why are the grown-ups so shocked? A 10-year-old girl asked her mother after using the crystal. This is how I always thought the world worked. 6 months after their return from the moon, Yoon received a message that made his heart race. It appeared directly in his mind while he was sleeping. It is time, the Kiran voice said. Your people are ready for the next step. He contacted his team. They all had received the same message. The next morning, they returned to the moon. This time they brought a dozen other humans with them. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and children. People who had experienced the crystal and were ready for more. The alien ship rose from beneath the lunar surface to meet them. But now it looked different. Instead of being buried and hidden, it stood tall and proud on the moon's surface. Its impossible architecture gleamed in the sunlight from a dozen different realities. Inside the ship, the Kiran were no longer sleeping. They appeared as beings of light and thought, but now they also took forms that humans could more easily understand. They looked like people, but people who could be many things at once. Welcome back, said the Kiran who had taught Yoon's team. You have done well. Your species is learning to think with the universe. What happens now? Yoon asked. Now you join the Alliance, the Kiran replied. They were taken to a vast chamber inside the ship. In the center was a device that looked like a tree made of crystal and starlight. Around it stood beings from dozens of different realities. Some looked human-like. Others were geometric shapes that thought. Others were living music or walking mathematics. These are our allies, the Kiran explained. Every species that has learned to accept multiple realities. Every civilization that has grown beyond the limits of single-dimensional thinking. A being that looked like flowing water but spoke like wind addressed the humans. Your species shows great promise. You learn quickly, you adapt well, but there is still much work to do. The crystal tree in the center of the room showed them images of the threat that all realities faced. Dark creatures that existed in the spaces between dimensions. Entities that wanted to destroy every possible world, leaving only empty void. They grow stronger, said a being made of geometric light. They have already consumed 17 realities in the past cosmic cycle. If we do not stop them, they will eventually reach every world that exists. How do we fight something like that? Asked Dr. Lee, one of the humans who had joined the mission. The same way your species fights any problem, the Kiran replied. By thinking of solutions no one else has thought of. The Alliance had been fighting the shadow creatures for millions of years. They had developed powerful weapons and sophisticated defenses. But they had never been able to truly defeat the threat. You need something different, Nari said. A new kind of thinking. Exactly, the Kiran said. Every species in the Alliance thinks in ways that make sense in their reality. But the shadow, creatures exist outside all realities. To fight them, we need minds that can think outside all realities too. Human minds, Yoon realized. Human minds that have learned to accept impossible things while still remaining human, the Kiran confirmed. Over the following months, humans worked with the Alliance to develop new strategies against the shadow threat. They combined human creativity with alien technology. They used human intuition to see patterns that purely logical minds missed. They applied human stubbornness to problems that other species had given up on. Most importantly, they used the human ability to believe in impossible things to imagine solutions that should not work but did. Tay designed weapons that fought by healing instead of harming. The weapons turned shadow creatures back into the light they had once been before being corrupted. Hana developed shields that protected realities by making them more real, not less vulnerable. The shields used the power of human hope and imagination to strengthen the fabric of existence itself. Nari created communication networks that let all the Alliance species share not just information, but ways of thinking. For the first time, beings from different realities could truly understand each other. Yoon became humanity's first ambassador to the multidimensional alliance. He learned to speak languages made of color and emotion. He negotiated treaties with beings made of pure mathematics. He made friends with entities that existed as living stories. But he never forgot that he was human, and that was exactly what made him valuable. Your people have given us something we never had before, the Kiran told him during one of their meetings. The ability to remain grounded in one reality while thinking across all realities. Most species either stay locked in their dimension or lose themselves completely in the multiverse. Humans can do both. What happens to Earth now? Yoon asked. Earth becomes the first world in your dimension to join the Alliance. Your people learn to explore not just your own universe, but all possible universes. You become the guardians of infinite possibilities. Back on Earth, the changes continued. Not everyone accepted the new realities. Some humans preferred to think that the universe had only one set of rules. But enough people embraced the new way of thinking to transform human civilization. Schools began teaching children to think in multiple dimensions. Scientists developed technologies that worked by accepting paradox. Artists created beauty that existed across several realities simultaneously. The ship led them deeper into its impossible interior. Each room they entered was stranger than the last. They found a library where books wrote themselves as they watched. They found a garden where crystal trees grew music instead of leaves. They found a window that showed not space outside, but different realities playing like movies. How long have we been walking? Hana asked. Tay checked his watch. 2 hours, but it feels like days. Time moves differently here, Nari said. She had been taking pictures of everything, but her camera showed things that were not there and missed things that were. Yoon felt the ship guiding them toward something important. Each turn they took seemed to be the only choice they could make. Not because they had to, but because it felt right. Finally, they reached a room that was different from all the others. It was perfectly round and empty except for one thing in the center. A crystal that was taller than a person and wider than their arms could reach. It glowed with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. What is it? Tay asked. When they got closer, they could see that the crystal was not solid. Inside it, lights moved like living things. Patterns flowed through it like water flowing through glass. Nari reached out to touch it. It feels warm. And it is humming. The humming got louder when she put her hand on the crystal. The lights inside began to move faster. Then something amazing happened. Images appeared in the crystal like a three-dimensional movie. The images showed the history of the ship and the beings who built it. They call themselves the Kiran, Nari said. Somehow she knew their name just by looking at the images. They come from a place where our rules do not work. The crystal showed them the Kiran reality. It was a place where up and down were suggestions, not laws. where hot and cold could exist in the same spot, where beings could be in many places at once and still be one being. They look like us sometimes, Hana said, but not always. In the crystal, the Kiran appeared as human-shaped beings made of light and thought. But they could also be animals, or plants, or geometric shapes, or pure color. They were whatever they needed to be at any moment. They are explorers, Yoon said. The crystal was feeding information directly into his mind. They travel between realities looking for other intelligent life. The images showed the Kiran's long journey. They had visited thousands of different realities. In most of them, they found life but not intelligent life. In some, they found intelligent beings, but those beings could not understand the Kiran way of thinking. They need to find others who can think like them, Tae said. Others who can accept that impossible. Things are normal. The crystal showed them why this was important. In the vast space between realities, there were things that threatened all life everywhere. Dark forces that wanted to destroy every world, every thought, every possibility. The Kiran fight these things, Nari said. But they cannot fight alone. They need allies from many realities. The images showed great battles between beings of light and creatures of darkness. The battles were not fought with weapons, but with ideas and dreams and the power of creation itself. That is why they came to our reality, Hana said. They were looking for help. But when the Kiran reached their dimension, they found a problem. Humans and most other intelligent beings in their reality could not accept the Kiran way of existing. The human mind was too rigid, too locked into thinking that the rules never changed. We failed their test, Yoon said sadly. The crystal showed them the test. The Kiran had visited Earth thousands of years ago. They had tried to make contact with early humans. But every time they revealed their true nature, the humans became afraid or went insane. The human mind could not handle beings that existed as pure thought. So they left, Tai said. No, Nari said. They waited. The crystal showed the Kiran's plan. They buried their ship on the moon and went to sleep inside it. They would wait until humans evolved enough to understand impossible things. They would wait until human minds became flexible enough to accept that reality had more than one set of rules. They have been waiting for us, Hana said. Not humans in general. Us, specifically. The crystal showed them their own lives. It showed Yoon learning to lead by accepting that sometimes the best decision was the one that seemed wrong. It showed Hana studying geology and learning that the Earth was far stranger than anyone imagined. It showed Tai fixing machines by understanding that sometimes broken things worked better than perfect things. It showed Nari studying ancient cultures and learning that every civilization saw reality differently. We are ready, Yoon said. That is why we could enter the ship when others could not. The crystal pulsed brighter. Around them, the ship began to change. Walls became transparent. Floors became clouds they could walk on. The ceiling opened to show not the rock above them, but stars from many different realities. They are waking up, Nari whispered. In the crystal, shapes began to form. At first, they looked like reflections or shadows. Then they became more solid. The Kiran were returning from their long sleep. The first one to fully appear looked like a tall human made of silver light. When it spoke, they heard its words not with their ears, but directly in their minds. Welcome, young ones. We have waited so long for minds that could find us. You have been testing us, Yoon said. Not testing. Teaching. Your ship, your hallways, your rooms that are bigger inside than outside. All of this was to help you learn that your reality is only one of many possibilities. Hana stepped forward. Why do you need us? You have amazing technology. You can do impossible things. The Kiran's form shifted to show sadness. We can do impossible things in our reality, but we cannot exist fully in yours. We need allies who belong to your dimension but can think beyond its limits. What do you want us to do? Tae asked. The crystal showed them images of Earth's future. Some futures were bright, with humans spreading to the stars and learning to travel between realities. Other futures were dark, with the shadow creatures finding Earth and destroying everything. Your species is at a turning point, the Kiran said. You can continue to think that your way is the only way, and remain trapped in one reality. Or you can learn to think as we do and join the community of beings who protect all realities. How do we learn? Nari asked. You already have learned. You accepted our ship. You walked our impossible halls. You did not run away when reality stopped. Making sense. You are the first humans to do this. The Kirin showed them more images. Humans working with the Kirin to build ships that could travel between dimensions. Human scientists learning to use thought as a tool. Human artists creating beauty that could exist in multiple realities at once. But not all humans will accept this, Yoon said. No, many will fear us, many will reject what we offer. That is why we need you to be our ambassadors. You must help your people understand that the universe is far more wonderful than they imagine. The crystal began to glow even brighter. Around them, the ship started to become more solid and real, but also more impossible. We are giving you a choice, the Kirin said. You can leave now and return to your normal lives, or you can stay and learn from us. But know that if you stay, you will be changed. You will see reality as it truly is. Not one thing, but many things all happening at once. Yoon looked at his team. They looked back at him. They were scared, but they were also excited. This was the greatest discovery in human history, maybe the greatest discovery possible. If we stay and learn, he asked, what happens to Earth? Earth becomes the first world in your dimension to join the alliance of realities. Your people learn to protect not just their own world, but all worlds everywhere. The choice was theirs. Stay and become something more than human, or leave and remain, as they were. But as Yoon looked at his team, he realized they had already made their choice. They had made it the moment they decided to enter the impossible ship. We stay, he said. We learn. The Kirin's form brightened with joy. Then let us begin your education. Let us show you how to think with the universe instead of against it. The crystal pulsed once more, and suddenly they could see everything. Not just the ship, not just the moon, but the infinite web of realities stretching out forever. They could see other Earths, other humanities, other possibilities, and in the distance they could see the shadows that threatened everything. But now they were not afraid, because they were no longer alone. They had found their teachers, and through them, humanity had found its destiny.